Hey everybody, it's Joel. It is Wednesday night, July the 18th, at least here in the US. In Australia, where Nicholas Mall is, it's the morning of the 19th. And we are here for our weekly update on Dryden. And again, it's been an exciting week. I don't think it's been as exciting as last week, because last week was just insane. But we've got quite a few items to talk about today, and we're going to start off talking about Big Damn Dryden, which is the role-playing game that Owlman Press, which is Nick's company, is putting out. And for those of you who aren't familiar with it, Nick owns Big Damn Sci-Fi, which is a very nice science fiction role-playing universe, and Big Damn Dryden is the adaptation of that rule set into the Dryden science fiction universe, specifically in the primer looking at corporations. And Nick, we have playtest results. You want to talk about what's going on?
All right, playtest results. I think the first thing to premise with any sort of playtest when you're talking about the results is you need to remember that it's the first time a game is played. So it doesn't quite have what you would consider all the smoothed out, rounded edges yet, that there will be things that get flagged this time pretty early on as needing adjustment, some things that get flagged as needing expansion, some things getting flagged as needing rewriting. So far this time there wasn't any rewriting, which is always sort of a bonus and a bit of a first for a playtest. I think one of the biggest things that stood out from this sort of playtest is firstly everyone had fun. Well, I'll premise that everyone except one person had fun. It's the thing with any playtest group that not every game is going to gel with every person. And this game certainly didn't gel with this gentleman. So out of I think maybe, oh gee, how many did I have? 7 people. 6 had fun. One person said, maybe this game isn't quite for me.
All
Um,
right.
so some of the things that stood out with that is the rolling system works well.
Good.
But at the same time, there was a question of how many rolls, what kind of roll lets you do how much. I.e., in Dungeons and Dragons, you're going through the dungeon, I swing to hit the orc, you make a roll, you hit the orc or you miss. That's one roll, one result.
Right.
Um, in this game, in this playtest in particular, and it might be different for the guys in New York, in Topeka, in the other playtest groups, and that's kind of the benefit of this playtest, having several different GMs means we're going to get several different styles of game mastery, means we're going to get several different kinds of perspectives on how to rule the rules. For my own ruling of the rules, I was kind of using the roles as sort of a blanket thing. Someone wanted to, say, drive a sky car, flat chat down the street, and evade the police.
Okay.
Someone else wanted to hack the computer systems and turn the hotel security off. So I was making that person doing the hacking. I was thinking of it as 2 separate tasks. One, they hack the computer. 2, they go into that system and turn the computer off. 2 roles. The
Okay.
gentleman trying to evade the police, I was treating that as one role because he's driving. That's part of him driving to evade the police. What some of the people were saying, players were saying out of that kind of result was they didn't really get a sense of how much they could do with a role and how much their traits would let them do with a
Very interesting.
particular role. Yeah, and it was a very interesting sort of thing to pick out. So we kind of talked it out around the table and kind of came to the conclusion that maybe the amount of successes that you get, say you get 3 successes, you can do, say, 3 things with that.
Okay.
So if you're trying to evade the police, it's 2 successes. One, to not, say, crash the car into the side of a building, and number 2, to actually sort of evade the police. If you're trying to hack the hotel security system, to, say, turn off the elevators. One, to hack the security system, actually get into the system, and another one to turn off the elevators.
So that I,
And,
I I suppose then the game master sort of has to make a call in some cases about what comes first. I mean, in both of those instances, it's fairly obvious. You have to get into the computer before you can hack the elevator. But I can see other situations where so and so is trying to, jump off the bridge, pull the ripcord on their parachute, and shoot someone. They get
yeah,
2 successes. Which of those 2 things happened? I think the game master would sort of have to make a decision ahead of time. First, you got to get your
yeah.
chute pulled, and then you've got to so that a player could tell how far they made it.
Yep, I would put the recommendation. I put the recommendation in the system. I wrote a little sort of section under roles for multitasking and for doing that sort of thing. I put in the sort of the recommendation that the order in which the player presents the task. So, say you're doing the jumping off the bridge and pulling the ripcord scenario. They say, well, I'm going to try and jump off the bridge and pull the ripcord. In that instance, then jumping off the bridge would be. Oh, I love Johnny Cash. That's wonderful. So I can hear Johnny Cash. Is that? Can anyone else hear Johnny Cash?
No, I think you're on your
No,
own.
no. Oh, that's my computer. That's
I
sorry.
say I don't hear any Johnny Cash.
For
I love
some
him
reason,
too.
John. I thought that was someone else's coming through.
I
So
say
yeah.
I'm
So,
muted. Or
It
was
wasn't.
muted.
It wasn't me.
oh. At any rate, in the instance where they say I jump off the bridge and I pull the ripcord, again that's fairly obvious. If, however, they say something like I'm, oh wow, fantastic,
Yeah.
fantastic. Is that an original?
Yeah. Yep. It is. The cover
That is
got a
a
little
thing of
moldy at
beauty
some
right
point,
there.
but yeah, it is indeed. I have another one too. That's not Folsom Prison. It's San Quentin.
Yes, yes,
Live at San Quentin.
nice.
Yep. Yep. All right. So anyway, about Johnny
Uh,
Cash.
So anyway, in the instance of say like you're driving, if the player says say I'm driving the sky car and I'm shooting out the window, I would say that if they get say only enough successes to do one, so if they only get one success to do that, I would say well you drive the car successfully because that was the first thing you said. That's the thing you're concentrating on.
Right. Right.
Whereas the shooting out the window, that was the second thing. That was the afterthought. That was the add-on.
So then it becomes important what order the players think they're doing things in, because if they had said I'm shooting at the cops while driving the car, they would have successfully managed to shoot at the cops and then wreck the vehicle.
Yes.
Right.
And then it becomes on the players to actually, rather than the GM trying to know, okay, how do I govern your action? It becomes the player's role to think about, to be in charge of their character.
Okay.
Yeah, the other thing was the other big thing that came out of playtesting was the way Big Damn Sci-Fi ends up phrasing its armory is largely geared to short lists. So you go, you get a +5 bonus worth of items. Now, on one hand, some of those items, and there might be only one or two in a Big Damn Sci-Fi list that have a double bonus trait, which means that when you're buying them, you have to pay sort of for the bonus twice because they might do two things.
Right.
There are things like, say, the sword gun. That's both a gun and a sword. It's like, so you pay it twice, once for being a gun, once for being a sword. And while on a short list where you've only got one item like that, it's relatively fine to look and go fine. Of course, Big Damn Dryden has quite long, extensive lists of items, so that was simply a matter of adding a cost column
Okay. Okay.
and getting rid of the double bonus thing, and that's fairly straightforward.
Right.
I'd say the third piece of item that came out of playtesting, and this is either sort of we put a patch on it and do it as a short-term thing, or we and with a longer term solution or a long term addition if we want to go forward with it, or we try to do a bit of rewriting at the start and take the sort of rebuild things in a slightly different manner. And that is people were thinking that some of their sort of skin choices could have been a little more expansive, particularly when it comes time to looking at experience points. So, hold on 2 seconds. Kids, no, meeting. Can you guys, I'll put Scooby-Doo on later, okay? You all need to decide which Scooby-Doo you want to watch. You can't bring me 3 DVDs and go, we want to watch the... No, Shiloh, but your brother wants to watch a different one. Every child has their own Scooby-Doo they prefer in this house. They're greatly schooled in franchising, much to my detriment.
So
One of them likes live action, another one likes Mystery Incorporated, another one likes the current spat of Warner Brothers sort of movies, animated movies. Yeah. So another thing then that could be perhaps a long-term thing is people didn't feel like their skins really reflected their or could have reflected their learning and their skill background a lot more, particularly when it came to making like armory choices, item choices, where someone with a sword gets the same bonus. Someone trained in using a sword with the warrior skin gets the same bonus off using that sword as someone who doesn't, say, have that training. They both get the +3. That's just the thing of roleplay games in general. Then generally everyone who picks up an item is just, unless they've actually trained in it, is just proficient. But in this game, because it just adds more dice, they didn't really feel like being trained and getting like the extra couple of dice really reflected that training. So, short-term solution to that would be leave it as it is, possibly lower the amount of points people get or the amount ranks people have in their traits to start off with. So instead of having traits that are ranked between 1 and 6, they maybe get traits that are ranked between 1 and 4, so those bonuses really add up and feel like a difference. And then in the longer term, we bring in, say, specialized equipment for people with particular skin backgrounds. I.e., if someone takes, say, the Swordmaster background, then they can use better and better swords. Or when they're using a sword, they get a higher bonus. And then we add those sort of later on.
Now, one of the things that D&D did was penalize you pretty heavily if you didn't have the trait.
Yes.
If you didn't have the skill. I guess, I haven't actually played the game yet, so I'm having a hard time doing this math in my head, but the feeling was there wasn't enough differentiation between a player who had the skin and a player who did not have the skin in terms of ability to use the item.
Yeah. Let me put it this way, right? Okay, hackers, doing hackers, your intuition. Let's say you have 4 points in intuition.
Okay.
And you've got the hacker skin. So those 4 points will give you 4 dice. The hacker
Okay.
skin will give you an extra 2 to doing the hack, and then you've got your communications item that might give you an extra 3 dice. So all in all, you've got maybe like, what's that, 9 dice, right? For being a trained hacker, using that equipment and doing that skill check.
Okay.
Someone who isn't a trained hacker would only be losing 2 dice. So it'd be 7 as opposed to 9.
Oh, yeah, I can see that.
Yeah. So the short-term solution would be to lower sort of the amount of traits that people start with. So say if we start with between 1 and 3 instead of 1 and 6,
right.
That would mean that at most, the untrained hacker would be getting 3, 5, 6. That'd be getting 7, whereas the trained hacker would probably be. Sorry, the trained hacker would be getting 7. The untrained hacker might be only getting 4 or 5.
Yeah. Right. Well, okay. You're the game designer. You're the wizard. Tell us what we need to do to patch that hole, and we'll make it.
It might not actually be a hole yet. I mean, this is just one playtest group's response.
Right.
Another playtest group might look and go, "That's great. Those 2 extra dice really felt like it made a difference." That's the beauty of multiple playtests.
Right. Very good.
But my instinct would be to go for the short-term kind of patch now, and then look at a longer-term thing where we have better and better equipment open to people. Say you've got the hacker skin, and say we bring out, we talked about at one point doing a corporation-specific group book. In that book, then pardon?
I'm sorry.
Tracy interjected suddenly.
I just went off much. I'm eating Nutella by a spoon and it dripped. I apologize. I'm sitting here listening and absorbing what you're saying, and I dropped Nutella on my shirt.
And let me take this little break in the conversation just to say hi to Eugene really quick. Eugene, we went ahead and started early. Nick is getting towards lunchtime there in Australia, and he popped on about 15 minutes early, and so we went ahead and started to talk about the role-playing game so that Nick and the kids could get on to lunch and apparently some Scooby-Doo. So we're in the middle of talking about Big Damn Dryden at the moment.
All right, okay.
Awesome, awesome to see you here, though. All right, so we were talking about the skins and the advantage to the skins. What about Nick? It seems like that there are a lot of specialized skills that you just can't do at all if you don't have some aptitude. If you haven't picked up a skin that will allow you to do it, or don't have the ability from somewhere else, I wouldn't think that I would be able to just sit down and fly a flying car if I had never had.
Yeah. The system assumes that there'd be amount of basic training that someone like say a QB would have. I mean that's the assumption in the game system itself, that there is a certain level of basic training that say a space adventurer has.
Okay.
So someone who with a certain amount of aptitude, chances are, they might not have trained formally to fly a spaceship, but they've sort of seen it and toggled around with it enough to be able to sit down and do it. The sort of Firefly effect, where someone like Malcolm or Zoe, or even Jane can fly sort of the ship if they have to, but when you want to do your big leaf on the wind moment, you really need Wash in that pilot seat.
It just makes me sad even to hear someone say "Leaf on the Wind." I really think the franchise ended right there. We could have survived the loss of the Preacher, but I think we were gone once we lost Wash.
Hey, there's an MMO coming.
That's very interesting. I'll definitely check it out. I understand there's also a fan movie out there that I've never seen.
Really?
Yeah, I read somewhere that Joss Whedon had approved someone who approached him with a fan film.
Cool.
Yeah, I've never seen it, but it's one of those mean to do. Go ahead.
Sorry. Yeah, but the thing you hit on there with sort of like say someone with no sort of pilot's training, suddenly being able to fly a starship. That's always one of the key sort of problems with any roleplay system. Does unskilled mean that you can't possibly do it, or do you go for the lucky roll? And it's often cited with superhero systems that the Hulk could say botch his roll to lift a car, whereas Spider-Man might ace it and be able to bench press the truck.
Right. Right.
Yeah. So my thought would be, for the short term, lower the starting trait ratings. For the long term, bringing specialized equipment that's in a future book, the corporation's book, or maybe even this one, depending on how far we want to go with sort of the page count and how quickly I can write in the short term.
Okay. Okay.
That someone only with that particular skin background would have, say, a specialized hacker deck for someone who's trained in hackers. If you don't have hacker, you can buy it, but you can't utilize it. You wouldn't know where to start looking.
Right. I feel this way when I see a Mac. I know that they're very easy if you've been introduced, but since I never have.
Yeah. One of the better trucks to drive, though.
So then, switching a little bit to talking about how much content and how long to write and so on and so forth. From my perspective, you are completely in charge of that.
Yep.
We are now members of Drive-Through Roleplay and the sister site whose name escapes me.
RPG Now, One Bookshelf,
RPG
Now, Wargame Now.
So we are members of RPG Now and Drive-Through RPG, and I think that you and I are in agreement about how to publish once we get to publishing, but in terms of the date and when we start marketing and who we market to and how many rounds of play test, you're going to send me an email and I'm going to say, okie dokie, and that's as rough as I'm going to be about it. Of course, I like to see things go into production. I get very excited about it, but putting something into production before it's ready is not a good thing. What I can contribute is that we have a commitment from Boom Comics to put anything that we make a limited edition version of for them. They have committed to putting it on their website and making it available through their website. the website that they have right now is static pages, and you can't actually purchase off of it. And we had some feedback from some of our folks that they liked the idea of exclusive content, but they didn't want it to be trapped into Pika. And Matt at Boom agreed with that and committed to putting things online in a sellable manner for us. So that's very nice. And I have seen. Have you seen the draft of the cover image? The Mrs.
Yes.
Okuda
Yes,
that,
very
that
cool.
that Gavin did. Yeah, I
Very
think
beautiful.
that's off to a very good
Mm.
start. I think he made it sort of a personal mission to develop character drawing. He's said several times that character drawing's not his strong suit, and I think he decided that this was the project that he was going to buckle down, and I think it's looking great.
Nice.
Um, we also have a draft of the map that will go with the game.
Yep.
Have you seen that?
Yeah. And from my perspective, that map kind of does everything a good RPG map kind of does, where I can just sort of using in the game, even if I'm not using one of the locations on the map, I can kind of point to it or put a little sticker there, or kind of go, "You guys
Right.
are here," and there's instantly a sense of orientation in the setting from that.
Very good. Yeah,
Okay.
we had a discussion about size of icons and maybe using it to indicate political factions or something, and I suggested maybe
Yep.
size, population size, so you could tell if it was a big world or a small world.
Yep.
My concern there is that I don't think any of the very small worlds, with the possible exception of Olivai 4 and Chenrith Minor, are on that
Yep.
map. I think mostly just the big players are on there. There's 30 or 40 planets on there. I don't remember, maybe 30. And you'll notice that there's actually a gap that goes all the way down the map this way when you're looking at it, and that's the centerfold, because we're going to put it inside the book, and so the gutter will go there. We'll actually
Yeah,
split
nice.
it into two pieces. Yeah, Gavin's really good about that kind of stuff. When he sent it to me, he was like, "So you'll notice there's a line right there," and I was like, "I never would have noticed that, Gavin, but that's awesome." So that is actually the Saul is not in the exact center of that map. It's off to the side so that the gutter
Yeah.
won't come right across it. So great stuff. All right, so talk to us about then. Did you have anything else that you wanted to talk about with the playtest?
No. That's pretty much it. I think that's the lump sum of sort of the feedback. I think the main thing to take away from it is that everyone had fun. Everyone enjoyed the system. Everyone
Awesome.
enjoyed the setting. So
Wonderful.
just growing forward from there. I think the next playtest, I tend to do playtests in rounds. I've got the vibe of 3. That's not based on Imperial fact, but that's kind of based on sort of my vibe, based on how
Okay.
this one went.
Okay.
I've got the vibe in my head of maybe 3. Lots of rounds of playtest for this game, with the premise that again, yeah, that's the vibe I'm getting. So it might balloon out to 4. If we need extra, I should be in a position now to be able to do them here if we've sort of like, I guess, exceeded the limit of the kindness of strangers in other places.
We are.
Yeah. Sorry.
I think that we have actually had playtests in Kentucky. We just haven't heard back from them.
Yeah.
And then Topeka and Manhattan are largely dependent on me, and of course my wife is ill, and I could sit around and rant about the people that I emailed and said they were interested and then didn't respond. But the real problem is that I've been very tied up and haven't been.
And you know what though, man? That is very, very normal for playtesting.
Right.
That is a default experience in my book, that you'll get like maybe half a dozen people that say, yes, I'd be happy to do that. I'll be into it, and maybe only a small fraction of that actually kind of respond and come through.
Well, what I need to do is go hang around down at Boom on a night when they're doing role playing and just start shaking GM's hands and saying, "Hi, I'm Joel, and you want to come play with us because we're cooler than the other kids."
Yeah.
People respond very positively to that. I just haven't made it happen. So that's
sometimes I find the thing that helps as well is just to show up to somewhere where there is a bit of generalistic gaming going on with a few pre-made characters and ready to rock, and say, who wants to role play?
Yeah, that's a good idea. So
So yeah, I think 3 rounds of playtesting for this. I'm thinking, and in each one, I'm going to try and hit on a different aspect of the system. This one was very much a generalistic. Here's a wide problem. You can kind of approach it in a variety of ways, just to see how the roles worked, how the skins felt, how character creation went, how people felt about building characters and whatnot, and how they kind of interacted with the setting. So in my particular playtest, I don't know if it's true of the others, but in my particular playtest, like the group entirely avoided combat, even to the point of dealing with Miss Okuda. They managed to avoid combat with her. One of the characters took drink efficient. He vomited in another character's pocket. She bursts into the room. He just reaches in the pocket, pulls out a handful of vomit, hurls it at her. Got all sixes, smacked her in the face, and they ran. And had a dicer in with them who ripped the handle off the door and sort of barricaded it as best he could. And out the window they went through into a waiting skycap. So. It was through a variety of sort of over the top situations and lucky rolls, they managed to avoid that combat. Next situation is going to be playtest scenario. It's going to be a little different. There's going to be pirates who are shoot first, ask questions later. So we're going to get spaceship combat in there.
Nice.
There's going to be a Geist Marine who's all sort of drugged up from some very dubious, possibly Cirque Corporation experimentation on him. And he's going to be a shoot first kind of guy. So it's going to be kind of testing the sort of, I guess, how hard can you fight, how well can you survive kind of aspect of the rules, and trying to, I guess, push players into a few more violent situations.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
I had an experience. I built a scenario based on the Aliens movies, and I sent this team in there, but I really hyped up how badass the aliens were and how scary they were, and I could not get them to engage. They just wouldn't play the scenario. They had to get to this certain location, and they just spent, I don't know, however many hours of gameplay looking for any alternate path in, and finally I was like, look, you guys are Marines. Go shoot things. There's no other solution. So I've had that experience where you set off for combat and then the players just have a mind of their own and it doesn't happen. So
Darn free will.
Free will, as soon as we can get rid of that free will, we can sure solve a lot of problems.
But it says something about the game where they can happily avoid combat and still get a positive outcome, that it isn't, say, a Dungeons and Dragons clone where it's like, no, that orc's going to fight you no matter what you say to it.
Right.
That elf is going to be your buddy because you've got the right alignment. It's like, well, no, there's a little more room for flexibility here and a few more shades of grey.
Awesome. So what else do we need to do to help move you forward, Nick? Where do we go from here?
I think the big thing I really need at the moment is playtest feedback.
Okay.
If the word count sort of and page count isn't an issue, I'll just go through and put in whatever I think the book needs.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think we need to think about if there is going to be a second book, if we're going to have a sort of next one coming. I'm happy to write another one.
Okay.
That would involve, though, another round of playtesting to just try out the things that are in that book. So whether we're willing to go forward.
I am. I just can't prove that I am at the moment.
Well, yeah, but it's just a case of whether there's willingness to try and get another round of playtesting. Maybe see each book, go, well, can we get playtesting done for this one? How much effort do we want to put into each one? I think one of the corporations would be very cool. I was half even thinking as well, but that might be sort of something for later, a bit of a sort of couple of pages right at the end on sort of running Dryden, GMing Dryden or something, and just kind of maybe even having a short adventure generator or something. That's kind of all in my head at the moment, and it's just popped out before it's probably ready to.
Well, let me back up just a little bit and address page count and play testing and issues like that. Dryden House is 100% behind Big Damn Dryden and behind Owlman. And we're going to do what it takes to make it successful. So the the question of page counts and so on and so forth is really only relevant when we talk about the print version of the book. And I don't have the numbers in my head on 8.5 by 11. We're going to do an 8.5 by 11 staple bound book, and I can produce 50,000 words for $5, maybe something about like that.
Cool.
At the net cost. So if we're going to put it into market, even at just $12 or $15, which is not very expensive for a print version of a book, we still have a reasonable profit margin. And for my thinking, and I think this is the way that Tracy and Gavin feel about things too, we really aren't concerned about the size of the profit. We need to make more than we spend. But once we've cleared that number, we just don't sweat. And if you came back, I think I had 15,000 words last time I saw it.
Yeah.
And if you came back and said I need 10,000 more, I wouldn't bat an eye. In fact, if you came back and said you needed 15,000 words more, I wouldn't bat an eye. Because frankly, I keep the sales happen electronically anyway. Right. And, we still haven't added art, and that will cost us pages too. I've put a couple of teasers out there for art, by the way, but again, it's sort of fallen into that pool of things that I haven't done since my wife got ill. But
you know what? Up to another 15,000 is a good sort of wide margin for me to work with. I probably won't add that much, but it gives me an idea.
Don't stop yourself. Then addressing the question, then the next question of can we get playtests and so on and so forth, is that I've been a little bit kind of conservative about where to go to look for playtests because this has been first round. And
that's very prudent for the first round, where people will. It's the most sort of, I guess, harrowing piece of RPG marketing I've ever been involved with. Where on one hand, for your first round, it's also your first. Almost first bit of promotion in some cases for a book.
Right.
But at the same time, people need to understand that it's not a finished game. So not necessarily, again, not all the bells and whistles and wheels and cogs will be turning properly.
Right. But once we have a little bit more confidence, then we'll start doing things, like, the Facebook groups out there that are RPG groups, we can just sort of cold call. I used to have some friends in the Orange County gaming group out in California. The guys that built the Realm sound system I sort of made friends with, and we'll go look out there. Once we have some confidence that we have a solid foundation that's going to work for people who aren't familiar with it already, we'll get more aggressive about approaching folks to cold test, and we'll find them. Then the third comment is the question about do we do a second book, do we do a so on and so forth, a specialization book or whatever. And my feeling about that is that one of the things that Dryden absolutely needs, especially the science fiction universe, is a kind of a dictionary. Right, an encyclopedia of all things Dryden, and it just so happens that in the course of building a role-playing game, you have to build one of those because that's the environment that your players are going to play in. That was the whole point behind putting Big Damn Dryden, or putting Dryden with Big Damn Sci-Fi, was so that we could have this world in a playable fashion. And the more work we do to grow, I sent you all those character sketches. Well, those are all now a part of the universe, and they're documented. And the faster than light travel system that was living on the Facebook page is documented in the role-playing rule book. And I really feel like there's a tremendous opportunity for synthesis as we go forward and say, well, how are we going to play it? We have to also say, how do we explain it to the players? And I really believe in that. And I cannot imagine what project you would come to me and say, hey, I want to do a book specifically about skills related to corporations. Hey, I want to do a book about the Il Solitaire. Hey, I want to do I don't know what you would say to me, but I have a very hard time imagining me going, I think I'm going to be completely behind and want to support. Tracy works for me now, and I will give her editing projects specifically to support Big Damn Dryden. We'll do what it takes to make sure that those are successful going forward. So
awesome.
Whether or not you want to do that is still up to you. You're you're free to test the waters with
Yeah.
this game and decide that it's not really being very successful. But just know that Dryden is of the opinion that we're behind you, and that we believe in what you're doing. And we think it's a
Cool.
wonderful way
Thank you.
to get the message of the beautiful universe that we've built under Creative Commons out into a larger a world. So, all right. So my takeaways are that I need to make sure that the playtest happens here in Topeka. And then I'm still following up on the art, and that was already on my list. What I think I'll do, Nick, is send you a bunch of stuff that I have in-house already that we already have rights for,
Yep.
and let you tell me how much of that you think you can use, and then sort of gauge what else we need. I'd like to have some custom face shots of Pilton and Akuta, although we've got an Akuta now, don't we? And some of those characters specifically. But the guy that I thought I was going to be able to turn up to do that has never responded to me, so I need to go find someone else. But I'll send you some sample art and just sort of let you tell me if you feel like it fits, and then we'll have sort of questions about consistency, of course, bringing art in from different folks, but we'll approach it that way. And then is there anything else you need? I still have character sheets on my to-do list.
Yeah, that would be sort of a key piece of art I would possibly recommend getting done next, because well the ones I did up, I kind of intended them as just kind of get us by ones, that we could do a bit of play testing with, and usually half the time that level of character sheet with me, I usually end up scribbling on it halfway through it during a session or at the start. Like one of the previous play tests I did, my wife sat there and I want my spot for this. She ended up writing extra slots all over it, going, I want a slot for this, I want a slot for my name, the character. We're doing a superhero game, and she's like, okay, I want one for the superhero identity, my job, who I am, as in who she is, how much experience. She just kind of added a whole heap of extra stuff.
Right
so
on.
Those ones are kind of intended to be kind of scribbled all over and drawn on, and
Let's
maybe seeing what can be added.
Let's maybe plan next time we talk to just have a Big Damn Dryden meeting, just maybe you, me, and Tracy,
Cool.
or me, you, Tracy, and Gavin. This is all very good, and we need to be having this talk.
Yeah.
But we're sure soaking up a lot of the weekly meeting, and I think maybe it's time to do a little bit more kind of one-on-one chat just about Big Damn Dryden and make sure we've got all the pieces we need. All right, so I'm holding playtest art and character sheets in my hand, and we're waiting for playtest results out of
Kentucky.
Yep. All right.
Also, too, the one that I sent it to is an amazing artist. So I'm going to ask him if he might be interested in pencil sketching. I know, but I'll ask him how he feels about it.
Okay.
So what I'll do is I'll call him probably tomorrow.
And I see that Dawn has joined us. How are you, Dawn?
Hey, Dawn.
All right.
Hello.
All right. So, Nick, what else do we need to cover today? Have we got you taken care of? Nothing.
I think that's all everything with me.
Wonderful. Well, you are, of course, welcome to stay and enjoy the chat with us. But if you, the kids, and Scooby-Doo need to go, we totally understand.
I might be on and off for a little bit, if that's all right.
Absolutely, Nick. When you first responded to my request for a role player, of course, it was very sort of in the dark. I didn't know you from Adam, and I was like, well, let's give this a try. I have to say that I don't know what my expectations were, but Big Damn Dryden is really growing into something really fantastic that I'm excited about, and I think is really a very viable game and a viable product to be putting in the market. And that's all about the work that you're doing. So I want to make sure that you know that I feel really honored to have you working with us.
I've been loving doing this, so
it's a lot of fun.
It's been very awesome.
Right on. Okay, so I'm going to move us on to the next part of the conversation. But that was Nick Mall from Owlman Press, who's building Big Damn Dryden. Thank you very much, Nick. All right. Well, since we've got Eugene and Dawn and Tracy, all three here with us. Why don't we just skip over and talk very briefly? I'm going to try to push the pace now since we ended up spending so much time on Big Damn Dryden. Just talk really briefly about Rise of the European. Eugene, you want to step in? Or actually, why don't I have Dawn do it because you missed the meeting on Wednesday. Dawn, you want to step in and just talk about the meeting on Wednesday and how the project is going?
Well, it seems to be going really good.
Awesome.
I don't. It seems like we're all kind of coming together on almost a single story.
There really has been a lot of synthesis going on. It's been very exciting to watch. So, looking at that story from the outside, from folks who may not know what it is, there's a key moment in our history in the year 2600 where the Europan, which is the entity that lives on the underside of the ocean in Europa, decides that it's had enough of humans and is going to throw them off the planet. And Eugene, Dawn, and Tracy, along with three other authors, are working sort of on independent stories, short stories drawn out of that collection, but this really wonderful, consistent line has cropped up all the way across there. Eugene, I understand that you sent some material to Tracy. How's your portion of the story going?
It's doing well. As I say, at this time again, it's kind of slow going because of grading and such.
Right on.
And also some medical issues, but it's coming along well. And sort of, it's taking shape by now. Again, it's going to take place over the entire span of the event, which, since it's a short story, it's only a few pages. It can't have it be super detailed for every little thing, but it's going to be more kind of snapshots here and there. And it's going to be a big theme of it is going to be just showing how powerful the Europan is, how knowledgeable it is, how it's connected into sort of this almost interdimensional, society which humans have. I mean, Tracy can probably talk a little about some of the stuff that I meant. There'll be a lot of references towards old mythologies that no one's ever heard of. It's just shows that the Europan is far beyond anything that the humans ever thought it could be. And it's linked into all these other cultures that humans at this time have no idea about.
That's actually a theme that's shown up in a lot of different ways. You know, Tracy has explored the idea that the Europan has actually been off of Europa and exploring other planets in its own way. And Dan Hunt's story indicates that the Europan has been researching human technologies for some period of time. So the Europan is clearly a lot bigger, badder, beastie than the humans expected on the Tuesday morning when the attack started. I think that's going to be a really exciting project, and I look forward to it. Tracy, is there anything that you wanted to add about the Rise of the Europan project?
I'm just excited because it seems like we're all coming together to borrow from each other's stories to help make our story tie in to one another, and I think that's kind of neat because our stories are still so inherently different.
It's really cool to watch. You know, for me, the kind of turning point moment in that was when Damien said he had this map that he'd started of the surface of Europa and would other people like to see it, and just immediately everybody was like, yeah, because in my part of the story, and blah, 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 you know, and we had the great discussion on Wednesday about I can't remember who proposed them. Kitty, I think, proposed the giant escalator or elevators that go up and down, and the conversation broke out about what happens when you start depressurizing one of those, and just everybody was working together, and it was really exciting and dynamic. So we also talked roughly about a date with Rise of the Europan. We hope to have draft versions of everybody's story by the 1st of September. Eugene, is that a working date for you?
That's perfectly fine.
All right. And then production happens hopefully towards the end of October, beginning of November. that will be guided as much by Tracy's promotions that she's doing as by the book itself, because I think once everybody has rough draft in hand and we get editing started, that process will actually go very fast, and it'll just be a question of matching that up to Tracy's promotional material. So, all right, so Rise of the European is on its way, and it's doing very well. I want to thank the three of you and the other three who aren't here today. That's a really cool project, and it's a lot of fun.
Is there a meeting every Wednesday, by the way?
I think, yeah, I think that the idea is to keep doing those. When we talked about it this Wednesday, I just put it up to the group, and everybody seemed to feel like it was being helpful. If they stop being useful, we'll stop doing them. But thus far, I think folks are really enjoying the sort of cross-seeding of ideas and really enjoying the working together. So until someone tells me otherwise, I'm going to keep doing them. So then moving on to the other couple of items that we have happening in Dryden Sci-Fi, Greta van der Rohe, as you know, or may not know, put her book A Matter of Trust, which she had released previously under the Creative Commons, and released it as part of Dryden. It expands Demon's Eye. Her first book that she brought to us was a novella called Demon's Eye, and Demon's Eye was actually a side project of A Matter of Trust. So now she's put that whole story in our universe. I need to read it, so I understand it happens out in Belle Epoque. She's got the civilization out there in the M26 star cluster? M20 star cluster? M24 star cluster, and A Matter of Trust is a full novel set out in that culture, so I need to get that read so that I know what's going on out there. I haven't read it yet. I'll put the hyperlink below. I'm making a note.
Yeah, I just bought Demon's Eye today. So.
Did you? I enjoyed it.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was a fun piece of writing. It would be interesting to know more about that universe, and I think we'll get that from A Matter of Trust. And then Katrina, who is writing out in Codex 2, out in the fantasy world, or still science fiction, but soft sci-fi, posted a note this week that she's now 10,000 words into the novel that she's writing out there. I haven't seen it. I don't know if she's going to publish it through Dryden House or if she's going to publish it on her own. I read what did we get, Tracy, 500, 750 words?
About that? It was like first part of a chapter, it was like the first few pages.
Yeah, we saw a very little bit, and we liked what we saw, and we had a very good conversation with her, and so we told her, go for it. But then we really don't know what she's done since then, but she is apparently 10,000 words into it, and that's a good start, so thumbs up to Katrina, and we hope to see more. And that's everything I had in the sci-fi universe. Does anybody else have anything in the sci-fi before I jump off?
Well, I've been working. I've written a tiny bit of that series I talked about earlier, and
yes.
To go along with that, I'm beginning to put together a sort of. You mentioned a dictionary earlier on. This really wouldn't be a dictionary. It's like an in-universe study of some of the mythologies and also some of the creatures and gods that are worshipped in sort of the core areas of the galaxy. And one, as I said, it's going to have a mixture of scholarly stuff, definitions. I'm also going to make up some religious texts. It's going to focus around off your right recently, they discovered there's a supermassive black hole in the center of the galaxy, which is absolutely colossal.
Right.
Not what we thought it was. And the idea that the supreme deity is going to be this creature that lives inside of it, and it's eventually going to come out of the galaxy, supposedly to destroy the universe, to destroy the galaxy. But it's mythology, so maybe that happened, maybe it won't happen. But I'm going to mix all that together, sort of create this sort of in-universe study of the creatures, and it will probably reference some of the beings that are mentioning in the Rise of the Europans. They say the Europans will be mentioning a lot of different other alternate dimension beings, and some of those might be referenced in other texts as well.
Very cool. For folks who aren't familiar with what Eugene is talking about, Eugene, in addition to working on Rise of the European, is working on a project at the very beginning of The Dark, which is the third era in the sci-fi universe. It's the story itself is related to a civilization of humans that try to find their way back to Sol. Eugene's got some wonderful almost sort of Middle Ages, Rise of Empire stuff going on that's very cool. And as part of that, he's developing a mythology, and that's where he is. Eugene, I'd love to see that. Please feel free to share with me at any time. That's a very cool thing. Nick, are you still with us?
I am.
Okay, I'm going to talk about one topic before I get into the other universes because I want Nick to hear this. One of the authors that we're working with, hang on, I got to write Eugene's name next to this note or I'll never figure out what I was talking about. All right. One of the authors that's working with us on Rise of the European, and she's also got another project set in the primer, is Kitty Sarkozy. And during the meeting on Wednesday, Kitty just announced that she has a suite for the Dragon Con in September.
In Atlanta.
Right, Dragon Con is the big Comic Con in Atlanta, Georgia, and she doesn't have a booth or a table. She's not a licensed vendor, but she says that what she does is she goes around to authors on about day 2 when they're all hungover and says, "Hey, I have a party in my suite tonight," and she's going to provide booze. And what she asked is if we wanted it to be a Dryden party, and we said, let us think that over. Okay, that's a great idea. We jumped all over that, but kind of what we're doing right now, we're not sure what that's going to look like, and we're sort of talking to people about what they might like to bring, what they might like to have. I suggested that we might do a Skype chat, Google chat that night, and sort of participate in the party vicariously. I'd have to get a date for everybody. We talked about putting book covers and teaser informations on like postcard size pages with the description on the back and hyperlinks. We talked about maybe trying to get her a run of posters or something that she could put up. So anyway, we are open to suggestion. If you knew that you had booze and comic artists and authors in a hotel room for the night and you wanted to try to impress them, what would you do? So go ahead.
1990s style quick start.
What is that?
In the 90s, roleplay games used to put out these quick starts, and they were like maybe 3 pages-ish. One page would have pre-made characters, one page would have a super condensed version of the rules, and another page would have a scenario.
Well, we'll talk to Kitty and see if she feels like she's up to it. What I'd really like to do is get somebody else from Dryden there in the room with her, but I don't have the scratch to fly down there or fly someone else down there.
I'm the closest, I think. And
I think you are.
and I'm still like 10 hours from her driving.
Right, and my wife will be in the middle of chemotherapy at the time, and that's kind of rough to explain that you need to go booze it up in a hotel room for the weekend.
I could probably convince my husband that it's okay to go booze it up in a hotel room for the weekend. Especially since the person I'm boozing it up with, his name's Kitty. But I have a 6-year-old and he's in school, and my husband works very strange hours.
So we want to take full advantage of the opportunity Kitty's putting before us. I'm not sure what we're going to be able to pull off, but I'll put forward the idea, Nick. What we might do is make a flash version of the rules available whether we tried to actually play it or not.
Yeah.
And just have it available for people to pick up off the coffee table.
It'd be good promo material since it might not be out by that time.
Right. I think that will be before the game is out. And the thing to remember is, she doesn't have a booth. She's going to have a party in her room, so it's going to be a matter of how many people she can attract, which, back when I used to drink, free brews would draw me like a moth to a flame. So and we could definitely make sure she's got enough free booze. So anyway, that's a good idea, Nicholas, and let me talk to Kitty, and we'll see what she thinks about maybe having one of the things be sort of a short version of the game that we could just have printed and maybe put a shiny cover on or something, and have them in her hand before the party. I also thought it might be cool to build custom dice that said "Big Damn Dryden" on them.
That would also be awesome.
Yeah, but
that would probably be awesomer.
But I kind of suspect that custom dice are pretty expensive. But let me make a note to look into custom dice. Okay, well, I just wanted to mention that because Kitty just said she's got a suite, and if we want to have a Dryden party in it, we can. And I said, hell yes. I have no idea how I'm going to do that. So, all right, we'll work on that. I hope to have video of people hanging off the chandeliers while role-playing Big Damn Dryden. All right, so I'm going to move off now into our other genre. Other genres, I guess. I don't know how you pluralize the word genre. And the first thing I wanted to talk about is Dryden Steam. I just wanted to touch on it briefly. Maike Wessa from Germany is really, really into what we're doing. She started a city called Coleridge, which is set in England in the 1880s. And she is producing art at this prodigious rate and character sketches to go with the characters that are in it. I'm writing short stories in it. I've written 3 of them now. Kay Patterson, who was my editor 15 years ago, just surfaced the other day and wanted to write in it. And I was like, yes, because Kay is awesome. She's my queen mom. So we're off to a very good start. And then Anya, Anya's last name has escaped me. Tracy, do you have it? Anya?
Not off the top of my head. No, I'm sorry.
Sorry, Anya. Please don't watch this video. Anya, who is also from Germany, has 7 books that she's published. Her fictional setting is in Baden-Baden in 1910, and so there's a continuity in the timeline between the 2 cities. And Anya has committed to putting the first book in Dryden in English, and I'm translating it, and that's proving to be very exciting. So Dryden Steam is growing as fast as we can possibly work on it. There's tremendous initiative. And the one thing, and I'm interested in this in the other universes, but I'm going to talk about it here. What is it called? Hero... the name of it's gone. There is a MMO foundational tool set that you can purchase for $99 a year that will allow multiple designers to come in and build an MMO together in a cooperative way. The Star Wars Old Republic MMO, if you ever played that, was built using the system. Hang on for just one second. I got to find the name of it now. I'm just making myself sound like a fool, talking about all these things that I can't find the name.
Hero
Cloud.
Engine?
Yes, the Hero Engine. Hero Cloud's Hero Engine. It costs $99 for a year's worth of the Hero Engine, and then once your game goes into production, they do a revenue split with you. What I have told the Dryden Steam people, and it will go for Dryden Sci-Fi too, is if we can put a design team together that can actually use that engine, I'll buy it. At least a year's worth of access to it to build MMOs of the genres that we're playing in. I would love to wander around in Coleridge in an MMO. I would love to see the primer become an MMO with giant flying space whales passing overhead while the characters are trying to turn in their quests. I think it's a really awesome idea. Technologically, it's completely beyond me. I don't even pretend like maybe I could kind of sort of if I held my tongue just right. No. But if we can find the people to do it and they're interested in working some kind of revenue split, I'll buy the Hero Engine. So if you know somebody, get them talking because I want to talk to them. So we've actually had a conversation looking at Dryden's Steam about what it would take to make the city of Coalbridge into a location in an MMO, and that's just a conversation, but it is a first step. So Steam is going very well. And that's that item. Then we are, on August the 20th, going to release the first book in our post-apocalypse genre, Dryden APOC. And Tracy, you want to talk about Lorelei You'll Never Die and what's going on?
Okay. Everyone who signed up for the cover reveal should have gotten an email today. It will have all the information that you need in order to set it up on either a blog, if you have a blog. But if you don't have a blog, whatever your social media, I have it set up for Facebook friendly post as well as a Twitter friendly post. If you have questions or if something's not working right for you, by all means, please send me a message and I'll do what I can to help. There's that. We're running full steam ahead. There are teasers and there's the cover. And so starting the 20th, there's going to be a lot of info being thrown out there. By all means, please grab a teaser or grab some info and spread it on social media. That's the only way we're going to be able to get this book seen, is for people to actually see bits, parts, and pieces of it. I would say, early August, we will have the ARCs out to those who have requested the ARCs and has been approved for it. And that will give you approximately 2 weeks to read the story, and then when it goes live, to post your reviews up on Goodreads and Amazon at least. If you don't have that and you put it on Kobo, iTunes, Barnes & Noble, wherever, it's all good.
And that Lorelei You'll Never Die is actually already available for pre-order. Last time we checked, iBook had picked it up, but
and Smashwords.
And Smashwords, of course, and Nook had not, and Kindle will not pick it up on pre-order because Amazon is the evil empire. But if you are interested in pre-ordering, the nice thing about pre-orders is that then on your release date, all of those go into your sales ranking. And it appears to the ranking system as if those sales happen that day. And so you get this kind of false little surge to start your book with, which is very nice. And for those of you, Laura Conrad, who wrote Lorelei You'll Never Die, was the author behind the graphic stories that we did in Sky Goddesses of Dryden Volumes 1 through 4. She's a fabulous author. I love editing her work because I get into it. And it's a very exciting book. Did we miss anything, Tracy? Was there anything else we needed to say about Lorelei?
Nope. Only now it's done. We're steamrolling.
Awesome. And for those of you who are working on other projects in Dryden, this is what promotion might look like for your book when it came through. So when Rise of the European comes around in November, we'll be doing this for Rise of the European, or in October, hopefully. And other books as they come to print, it'll be a little different for Big Damn Dryden, Nick, because we'll be trying to hit the role-playing markets, and you know those better than we do, so we'll actually sort of be leaning on you. But absolutely, we'll get some teasers out there, and we'll get some advertising material. Oh my God, I forgot the commercial. Okay, I'm going to put this out there. I had this idea for promoting the role-playing game, and I'm just going to throw it out there, and if somebody knows how to make it, then please do, and you can keep any advertising revenue. This is what I had this idea for how to promote your Big Damn Dryden game, right? Is you make a YouTube video, and what it is it's a bunch of cavemen sitting around a fire, and one of them tosses a rock up in the air, and it's kind of a flat rock, and the big guy in charge shakes his head and everybody's very sad. And then another one tosses the rock up in the air, and everybody, again, the big guy shakes his head, and everyone's very sad. And the third one tosses the rock up, and when it lands, it comes up with a dot on it, the dot side. And the big guy goes, yes, it's good. And that caveman then immediately freaks out. He's triumphant. He's like, yeah, yeah, yeah. And the voiceover comes over and says, play Big Damn Dryden, the best thing to happen to role-playing since Zog's D2 Mammoth Hunter. And then a Star Wars sound effect, the science fiction sound effect, plays while that's going on, because we're moving into the science fiction future. All right, that's the commercial for Big Damn Dryden, if we ever had the resources to make it. Then I just had one other thing that I wanted to talk about in a very general sort of way, and then we'll open it up if we've missed anything, anybody wants to talk about other topics. Several times this week I have posted things that authors are working on that are not coming from Dryden. Damien Roche's story, one of his stories, got reviewed, and we posted the review for that. Katrina's link to her books out on Amazon, we posted that. We talked during the Wednesday meeting about the projects that everybody's working on. For example, Dawn is doing a sort of grimoire of aliens for Big Damn Sci-Fi that is not a part of Big Damn Dryden, but of Big Damn Sci-Fi itself, and we sort of went through that whole group and talked about what everybody was doing outside of Dryden. I absolutely want to do more of that, and I want folks to send me the things that they are working on, and I'll post them. And if you see me post one of those, please repost it and share it. In the end, Dryden is not about Dryden. It's about the authors and the artists having a chance to grow and develop and be successful at the kind of work that they love to do. And it doesn't matter to me whether or not it's coming out of Dryden. If you're working on it, I want to promote it for you. I want to let people know. We have 500 and some folks following us on the main Facebook page. I think Don's got a couple hundred over on his page, and I'll Twitter you, and we'll do what we can to promote you. Please feel free to send me an email about anything that you are doing that's a creative endeavor that you'd like attention drawn to, and I'm going to promote it for you. I just believe that that's the right way to behave, and I just got thinking about it this week. It just sort of by coincidence, we promoted several things this week that weren't related to Dryden, and I just want to affirm we mean to do that. We want to do that. We're about doing that. So please let me know what you're working on. Let Tracy know what you're working on, and we'll get it posted for you. All right?
I've got a question. I've got something to put in there. Would you be willing to promote stuff that is going to be appearing in a serial magazine? Because I'm writing right now a poem that I'm thinking of having published for a for like an online sci-fi horror magazine.
Absolutely, absolutely, no problem at all. Yeah, I'd be glad to do it. Send me a link with a warning that I can tell people, look here next week, or once it goes up, send me the link, and we'll refer people to it. But you're a part of Dryden, so we're going to promote your work. It also occurs to me, Tracy, it might not be a bad idea to share the new phone number.
Oh, you would have to ask me about that.
Yeah, I'm gonna have
I
to
don't
look it up
ever
my own
call
self.
it.
Yeah, hang on just a second. One of the things that happened this week is that we got a phone number, and it's a phone number that Tracy will answer.
Yeah.
And it is area code 270. I'll post it below. Area code 270-245-2640. So if you've got a critical question and you need to talk about something, or you just really enjoy talking to Tracy, 245-2640, right? And I'll put the link below.
2640.
But that's a step. Dryden now has an email address and a phone number. We're so official, you guys.
Several email addresses.
Yeah, that's right, because we have Tracy, do you want to give them your email address too, speaking of such things?
Yeah, it's tracyvincent.dryden@gmail.com.
I'm writing that down. I email that like 10 times a day. Why am I writing that down? All right, well, you guys, it's been an hour, and we've covered everything that I have on my list. What are other folks thinking about, worrying about, want to sing praises about?
Well, in terms of, I mentioned the poem I'm writing. I do have some other stuff that I'm thinking of writing. Taking thinking of writing sort of a compilation short story that would all be set in the same universe. It wouldn't be Dryden.
Right on.
At this point, it wouldn't be Dryden. But I mean, the way you talk about promoting stuff, that would be a really big help.
We're glad to do it, Eugene. One of the things that really used to frustrate me is that sort of wall of indifference. I got pretty successful at publishing in magazines, and so you would have your sort of set readership, 800 people a month or 1,500 people a month, whatever the magazine gets. And then I get the bright idea to go publish something. And so, I'd go out there and I'd get my ISBN and I'd lay my book out and I'd get 10 sales. And then it's just a matter of grinding. You get into Facebook and you post every day and you start sending emails to bloggers all the time, please promote me, please promote me, please promote me. And it's really, really difficult to get attention in that environment. And of course, my core is that I promote Dryden because, it's what I live and breathe, right? But everybody who participates in Dryden is an author with their own values, just like me. And participating in Dryden is part of what you're doing with your talent, not, where your talent is owned. I don't have some captive power over your talent. So when you reach out into some other venue, into some other avenue, maybe we're going to find out that you're a fabulous oboe player, I'll post it. I'm totally going to support who you are. I'm totally going to be behind who you are. I'm not going to try to tell you work for Dryden now. You shouldn't work for other people. I believe in self-actualization. I want to be fully self-actualized, and I want you to be too, because that's the best way to promote it for myself. So whatever you get into, whatever you believe in, let us know, and we're going to promote you where and how we can.
Thank you. I really appreciate it.
Absolutely, absolutely, and I just love giving little speeches like that. So everybody say thanks for sitting around listening.
Tracy.
Yes, sir.
Did you like the sample that I sent you?
I did. I was telling Joel. I was like, you're very, very descriptive, and it's a very harsh view of things, but it's probably it's more realistic because it's not very human in thought. It's very predatory.
Okay.
There's not emotion to it, and that was kind of cool. And I was telling Joel, I was like, I'll put it in there. I said, but I'll probably put her as horrified because she's seeing all these humans getting ripped in half and all this kind of stuff. For her, that would be absolutely horrifying to see. Whereas the European is kind of just another day at the job,
Right.
And I haven't read that piece, Eugene, unless it's the same one that you sent me originally.
I'll send you this one as well.
That's awesome. But one of the things that's happened for me in the original short story, the European was really pretty sympathetic. And there wasn't a lot of contemplation of how rough it was going to be on the humans. And one of the things that surprised me when I turned it loose is both the savagery of the attack and the real emotional damage that the humans, it wasn't just sort of this analytic, by the way, 1.2 billion people died on Europa. It was, we're, running for our lives and bleeding, and the Geist Marines on the surface struggling away, and Dan Hunt's corrupted human, and the story just took on these savage proportions that are completely accurate, and I just never thought about when I wrote the short story. That was my version of it. So I have really, really enjoyed watching that story expand. It's totally unlike anything I would have ever written, and that's pretty kick-ass. I like that a lot. All right. Well, how are we doing? Don, you good? Eugene, you good? Nick, you good?
Yeah.
Tracy?
Yep.
Very good.
I'm gravy.
I'm gravy. All right. Well, everybody, thank you so much for joining us, and folks who are watching, later on. The Dryden experiment is a Creative Commons. I guess at this point you'd call it a principle or project. What we do is we put our material in whatever genre it's under a Creative Commons licensing, the BYSA 4.0 license. And what that license says is that if you use that material, that's okay. You're free to do that. All you have to do is credit whoever it came from. If you can't figure out who it came from, credit Dryden. And you have to put your material under Creative Commons also then. So everything that you've heard tonight, all of this conversation, has been a group of individuals who have agreed, rather than sitting around and waiting for somebody to buy their rights and buy their material away from them, they're going to keep ownership of it and they're going to share it. These have been 4 individuals who are just people who met on the internet somewhere, who have agreed that they would rather work together to work in the kind of environment that they believe in than sit around waiting for a corporation to find them. We invite you to participate. We invite you to check us out on Facebook. The Dryden Author and Artist Group is where you'll find us most of the time. Don runs the Dryden fan page, which is also out there. Check us out here on YouTube, the other videos, get to know what we do. We are a Creative Commons publishing revolution, and we'd love to have your participation. Thank you very much, everybody.
You too.
All right, there
Thanks.
you go. Okay. All right. Well, there went my exit. Have a great evening, everybody.
All right. Catch y'all.
Bye-bye.
See you.
See you later.